Hey everyone, this is Brainwaves, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a drop like EAZYBAKED. As usual, this whole project file is available on my Patreon along with many other project files, so check the link in the description if you're interested in that, and let's get started. Alright, the BPM for this one is 140. The drums are pretty simple. It's just kick, 2 snares layered. They sound like this. Percussion-y snare. Then I have another layer which is more for like texture. Sounds like this. So the 3 combined, they sound like this. And then I have a hi-hat loop. So yeah, these are the drums by themselves. On my synths, I got a sub bass, which I created in Serum with a sine wave. I am boosting a little bit of this harmonic in here. I put a noise oscillator in ARP circuit mode, level 7%. I created a second envelope with these parameters, and I routed that to a master tune modulation, unipolar mode, amount of 4, so that makes it have like a little bit of a pitch drop. Without that, sounds like this. With it, then on the effects, I got distortion, soft clipping mode, drive and mix all the way up, and a compressor with a gain of 13.7 dBs and mix all the way up. So without those effects, sounds like this. With the distortion, with the compression. So it's really helping to push the sound and the noise oscillator. Every other 2 bars, the sub goes from sustained to have a little bit of a tremolo effect in 1/4 mode. I created that with the auto pan, just putting the phase all the way down, and the amount is around 23%. So just creating a little variation in there. Then I have this pluck, which the patch itself, it's pretty simple. It just has a ton of post-processing to make it sound like that. So I'm just gonna mute all of this and show you how I created that from scratch. So inside Serum, you're gonna use a sine wave. Then you're gonna put it 4 octaves up in here. And you are gonna create an envelope just like this. So 0.4 of attack, 0 milliseconds of hold, 222 milliseconds of decay, no sustain, and release just as the default value. That's gonna give you this sound. Then you're gonna go into the effects and you're gonna put hyper dimension with these values over here. Then distortion, tube distortion, multiband compression, and reverb. Then after that, I put an utility in here with a -10 dBs of gain, just because that's the way that I mixed in Ableton. I set everything to -10 by default. Then I put a corpus in pipe mode. Decay is at 72, radius 100, opening 90%, tune around 51.35, and mix all the way up, spread 1.6. Then saturator This is the A Bit Warmer preset from Ableton. Then glue compressor, attack all the way up, release all the way down, and this amounts of threshold and makeup. Then dub echo, just a tiny bit of, as you can see, almost no feedback, almost no dry wet. Then I put a bass mono utility just to cut the stereo from the everything below 500 Hertz. And this EQ is just cleaning a little bit more of the sound and boosting around these areas in here. So that sound with the sub, they sound like this. And that's kind of like the main motif of the drop. But then I have a lot of bass fills like that. Which is something that I feel like EAZYBAKED do really well. They know how to make like crazy good whops. So I'm just going to show you how I made this in Vital. But before that, just taking consideration that I have a reverb throw rack in the group for these whops. So that's why they have like a big reverb tail. Without that, it sounds like this. Also the group for the synths, just in case, it has sidechain already applied and another reverb through automation, but this is more for like this main sounds in here. What I'm doing is I am increasing the reverb amount. It starts being subtle. And it just gets more noticeable every time. Just a little detail that I wanted to share and maybe would spark some ideas. So now let's get into the whoops. These first two are pretty similar. This one just has like a little frame modulation on the oscillator, but it's pretty much the same as this one. So I'm just gonna go through this one for time's sake. And I'm gonna cover all the rest, obviously. I got two LFOs. First one is in trigger mode with this frequency, and it has this shape like this, and that's gonna be routed to the first oscillator, which is sine wave, and also is gonna be modulating the FM amount. So you're gonna send FM to the second oscillator, and you're gonna use this amount. So then you're gonna put a second oscillator harmonic series wavetable frame with these values around here, sync, and the level all the way down. So right now it sounds like this. Then another basic shape, but this time the frame has this value, level around there, and you're also gonna be modulating the level with this first LFO by that amount in there. And lastly, you're gonna put a filter that is gonna be affecting the first and the third oscillator, and the cutoff is gonna be modulated once again by this first LFO. Then in the effects, you're gonna put chorus mix around there. I'm just hovering through all of these values so you can copy them. Then multiband, attack and release at 100%, mix all the way up. Downsampling distortion with this post filter, drive around there, mix all the way up, cutoff being modulated by this first LFO as well. If I take the post filter, you're gonna notice how it sounds way different. It's gonna give you like a more resonant sound, but I wanted something a little bit cleaner. but it's still with that texture and timbre of the downsampling. So that's why I put that post filter in there. And then the reverb is gonna have one modulation from this second LFO that has this simple shape trigger mode at a frequency of a bar, and it's almost not noticeable, to be honest. And that's it for that patch. Then outside of Serum, what I did is put a bass mono. So I'm just cutting the stereo from the low end, and then I put a EQ, just boosting the sub and taking down a little bit on these two frequencies right here and boosting around 1500. So yeah, that's how you create that web. I'm gonna jump to this one. So sine wave, once again, level is being modulated by this first LFO, which is in trigger mode. You can see that the envelope for this one, it's a little bit different. It's more like a plucky sound. Level goes to kinda 58%. Then in the effects, I put compressor multiband. With the distortion, it's in soft clipping mode, and these two values are also being modulated by this first LFO. Then EQ, boosting a lot of the high end. Chorus, mix at around 14%. LFO modulating the mix a tiny bit. And then reverb, I put a little bit of a modulation in the mix and the time. Actually, let me just correct myself. The distortion modulations are not from LFO 1, are from this second LFO, which is in trigger mode, 1/4. And I'm doing this couple of modulations in there. Then outside of the patch, once again bass mono, and I put a similar EQ to the first wub. Then I have this third one, which is a pretty simple one. It's just a square wave, so basic shapes, frame around 14. LFO 1 has this shape and it's modulating the level, and the filter is also being modulated by the same LFO. And then on the effects, I got downsampling, distortion, and phaser. The frequency is in freeze, so it's not moving without the post-processing. Distortion, phaser. Then this last one is this one. This one is a bit of a variation from one before. You can see the LFOs are pretty similar to the one that I showed you a few moments ago, but it has a little bit more going on. So sine wave, once again, FM2 oscillator 2, 24%, level all the way down and being modulated to 20% in here. Then the second oscillator has a harmonic series, frame at 13, level all the way down with a tiny modulation of like 0.5. Then I put a filter in here, drive around 7 dBs up, and the cutoff being modulated by the LFO. Then on the effects, I go to put a compressor, distortion, soft clipping mode this time. Once again, I'm modulating the drive and mix with this second LFO in here. You can see the values that I'm using. Chorus, reverb, now the EQ. Then I just applied this same EQ that I've been using. And that's it for the basses. Then lastly, something that I want to go over is the effects. I have a lot of small details in here that I feel are important. So let me just play the fills and the drums so that you can kind of appreciate more of what's going on in the background. So this is just adding more texture to the track. I feel like something that I liked a lot. It was this sample of me just playing with my keys, and I just recorded that, put it on beats mode, 1/8, and this forward arrow and around 30%, and it created like a nice rhythmic pattern. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Then I have some other like samples. Just weird stuff. This is weird bass music, so you put just weird stuff. Some glitches and stuff. And this goes with every snare. It's just like a long high note. Yeah, so that helps creating like a vibe, and you know, like just putting more texture behind of the main sounds. So that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you found it helpful. As I mentioned in the beginning, the whole project file is available on my Patreon, and also I'm doing one-on-one coaching. So if you want to jump on a Zoom call with me, feel free to check the link in the description for that as well. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I hope I see you around.